activity and energy, and you know, crop vitality. And I mean, we're seeing things start to go down, right? The squash over here on this side, it's on its way down. It hasn't crashed as far as the summer squash has, but give it another week and it's gonna be. Water, food, yay. I mean, I'm not sure how many people, where people are at in their own farms in this process, but this is quote unquote normal, right? And I mean, I hope it's gotten through with looking at the tomatoes and looking at the squash down there, that it's not, doesn't have to happen.
That's very good, because that's we're all conditioned to think, okay, it's almost September. Right. It's time for them to happen.
It's time for
so many weeks of production, and
now it crashes, and the battery's out. The batteries, you've run it out of charge. And if you keep it, and this is why if you monitor conductivity, and you keep it at 500, 600, and it doesn't drop, then there's no shocks, and you can really maintain at peak performance, right? If you're going down the highway at 65 miles an hour and you're in 5th gear, and you jam on the brakes, you got to go down to 2nd gear, then to 3rd gear, then to 4th gear, then back up to 5th gear, right? If you got a standard, which I've got. Or, you know, I mean, so but you want to keep going at that momentum, and then it takes less energy to stay up there, right? The RPMs stay low, and it takes less gas to keep going, to keep coasting. Did that metaphor work for people? I just pulled that one out of nowhere. But I mean, I think this is I talked about conductivity. I talked about how things can keep going, and I guess people didn't just sort of take my word for it. They thought maybe they'd have to wait and see, or thought I was full of it, or what exactly. But what's that?
Thank you for helping the class.
Oh.
Providing this illustrated.
But you see, I think that's a very interesting limiting factor, is the idea that we have. Yeah, but that's seasonal to this point. That this is seasonal behavior.
Right.
And you can't change it for whatever reason.
Right.
And you're saying that that's actually not true about most of these plants. They're all very warm-loving plants in general. You're saying that that's not necessarily how we have to think anymore.
If you take that summer squash as an example,
Yeah.
which Ari said this has never happened before.
Not that I've noticed before.
Not that you've noticed. I mean, have other people noticed this?
Never. Once my summer squash starts, it goes bloom,
Yeah.
and that's it. It's
So this
done.
is a unique experience, because for me this is normal. I mean, that's exactly what my squash looks like, and I feel bad because I've been treating it poorly, that it had to go get sick before the new shoots came up.
Now we do too.
Good. Well, so I mean, when I came out here 2 or 3 weeks ago,
You guys should do a routine. I mean, you could get hired for this.
she's taking the course next year, so we can maintain the
Blue-collar farmer.
maintain the banter.
Can I ask a dumb question about irrigation?
As long as you don't get dumb.
So you said you run your irrigation sometimes when you feel like it needs water for 8 hours?
With my hoop house, if I haven't, or my onions, yeah, maybe 8 hours is a bit of a, not excessive, maybe 6 hours. I mean, the question is, how poorly have you been taking care of things in the last 3 weeks?
Well, I'm just wondering, because I don't do the irrigation, but I felt like we haven't had enough water, and every week I say we don't have enough water, and
That's
I know
your
that,
soul.
What?
That's your conscience talking to you. That's your inner voice.
Conscience, yes.
Yeah.
And what I found out is that, I don't know how long Bob runs it, but he runs it every day, but probably just for a very short amount of
Right.
time. So would it be better to run it multiple times a day for a short amount, or a long time?
In the same way you want to get the conductivity up and keep it there, you want to get the soil moist and keep it there. Keep the soil moist is the objective. How you get there is your business.
But I think that I always have read that it's better to get it really nice and wet.
So one long...
Irregularly, because if you water regularly just a little bit, then the roots tend to
Stay on the surface.
and you get deep. I mean,
They'll stay on the surface if it's dry underneath.
Yeah.
it's the
If you have moisture in the wicking action, you have humidity throughout. You have sufficient water throughout the entire root zone. You don't want to have not enough water anywhere in the root zone. You want to have the whole root zone moist all the time.